Welcome back to my channel, Hidden Points. Imagine someone in your life who never ever arrives on time. Everyone around them just shakes their head and complains, calling them irresponsible or careless. But what if I told you the truth behind chronic lateness is far more complex, far more psychological than society assumes? The person who is always late isn't necessarily lazy or disrespectful. Often there's a deep pattern in the way their mind perceives time and priorities. They experience life in a different temporal rhythm than most people, a rhythm shaped by their cognitive patterns, emotional processing, and unique personality traits. People who are chronically late often operate in a mental landscape where the future and present feel fluid, and the boundaries of time are less strict. They consistently underestimate how long tasks will take because their brain prioritizes deep engagement with the present moment over linear scheduling. They get completely absorbed in what they're doing, losing track of external cues. The pull of the next activity feels different to them compared to people who structure every hour with precision. For some, lateness is also linked to avoidance and fear. When a meeting or event approaches, the unconscious mind resists arriving because it associates the event with pressure and responsibility. That resistance shows up as procrastination and distraction. The person tells themselves, "I'll leave soon," but soon becomes a very flexible concept. This is why the pattern of lateness often repeats itself across years and relationships, feeling almost uncontrollable. Interestingly, people who are always late also tend to have high levels of creativity and mental flexibility. Their brain thrives on novelty and adaptation, prioritizing ideas and engagement over rigid structure. Because of this, they often underestimate the practicalities of time and deadlines. Emotionally, they process urgency differently. What feels critical to one person might feel negotiable to another. When a chronically late person prepares for an event, they might overthink and overplan, making constant adjustments that paradoxically delay their departure. They can also be highly sensitive to stimulation. Minor disruptions in their environment, things other people might not even notice, can completely derail their plans. For some, chronic lateness is tied to low self-esteem. Unconsciously, they may feel they do undeserve to be on time or do untrust themselves to meet expectations. This creates a subtle pattern of procrastination and hesitation that simply looks like lateness from the outside. The psychology of habitual lateness also intersects with impulsivity and something called time discounting. People who are always late tend to prioritize immediate gratification and comfort over long-term schedules. They get drawn into small distractions along the way because their attention is pulled toward what is present and appealing, not the clock on the wall. Neurological studies even suggest that some people are predisposed to poor temporal estimation. They genuinely miscalculate the passage of time, feeling as though only minutes have passed, when, in reality, hours have gone by. This isn't laziness. It's the brain functioning differently in its relationship to time. Culturally, lateness is often stigmatized and punished. This creates a vicious cycle of guilt and pressure, which ironically makes the problem worse. The more a person is criticized for being late, the more anxiety they feel around time, and the more their mental processes resist conformity. This psychological tension further delays action. People who are always late are often highly conscious of how their behavior is perceived. They may feel deep shame and frustration internally, even if they mask it with a casual attitude. Some late people are actually perfectionists. They delay leaving because something has to be done perfectly before they can depart. Tying their shoes just right, checking things one last time, adjusting their clothing, or finishing one more small task can become prolonged rituals that make punctuality impossible. This perfectionism combines with impulsivity and time misjudgment to create a constant pattern of delay. The chronically late person may also struggle with executive functions and planning skills. Organizing a sequence of tasks and anticipating how long each step will take is genuinely more difficult for them than for others. Socially, this leads to strained relationships with friends, family, and colleagues. Yet the lateness is not intentional harm. It's a reflection of their internal cognitive and emotional world. Chronic lateness is also linked to personality types. Highly extroverted individuals get absorbed in social connections and lose track of time when interacting with people. For introverted late people, the delay might come from a subtle anxiety about facing new situations or being around others. There are even people whose lateness comes from a need to maintain control. If they leave on time, they feel pressured to conform to external schedules. But if they leave late, they reclaim a sense of autonomy. Psychologically, lateness becomes a subtle form of resistance and self-assertion. Some late people experience a rush of adrenaline and heightened engagement when they're under pressure. The final, frantic moments before an event can create a surge of mental focus that paradoxically reinforces the habit. The brain becomes accustomed to operating in these stress-fueled bursts, and they unconsciously repeat the pattern to feel that rush. This is why chronic lateness can persist even when people consciously try to change. People who are always late often have an internal narrative that excuses their behavior, genuinely believing they will be on time. The repeated failure to do so is met with internal frustration. Learning to correct this requires deep awareness of both cognitive processing and emotional patterns. With empathetic approaches, mindfulness, and time management tools, chronically late people can improve, but the psychological roots of their lateness often remain as deep as their personality. Ultimately, understanding this complexity allows both late people and those around them to cultivate more patience and cooperation. The psychology of habitual lateness reveals that time is experienced differently by different minds. The world is full of people whose internal clocks beat to a rhythm all their own, who navigate life balancing the pull of the moment with the demands of society. By seeing lateness as a behavioral manifestation of underlying cognitive, emotional, and social processes, we gain profound insight into human behavior. The chronically late person isn't just a rule breaker. They are a mind functioning uniquely in relation to time, attention, priorities, and self-perception. In recognizing this complexity, we begin to understand how psychology shapes our behavior in ways that are subtle and profound. Habitual lateness is a window into the mind of someone whose temporal reality differs from our own. It's a signal of a cognitive style that is both challenging and fascinating. By understanding the psychology behind it, we can see these individuals not as careless, but as deeply human and cognitively distinctive, navigating a rhythm that just doesn't quite match the world's clock. In this way, lateness becomes not a flaw, but a signature of a unique mind. Thank you so much for watching. If this gave you a new perspective, consider liking this video and subscribing for more insights into the human mind. See you next time.